Hello again. On this channel, we've done a speedrun, we've counted damage, it's time now to take the ultimate challenge, which in this case I've decided is a Nuzlocke. So, what's a Nuzlocke? Yeah, I know most people already know, so just a quick recap. The challenge comes from Pokemon, where the rules are, actually they kind of vary and there's lots of different types, but the most common rules include single-use Pokemon. If a Pokemon dies, it's dead forever and you can't use it again. The concept of a Nuzlocke has been carried to many other games now, and this is the rule that usually tends to carry over. Today, we're applying this challenge to Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. So here's a list of the things that are single use in this challenge. Everything. I wanted to keep this challenge as intuitive as possible. Adding a ton of exceptions would just feel arbitrary, so all of our moves can only be used once. Every jump, hammer, badge move, partner attack, item, and special move have one precious use. I considered permitting one jump and hammer per upgrade, or letting partners reuse their moves after upgrading, but that would just muddy the challenge. In a similar vein, here's a list of things that are permitted. Everything. Just like exceptions, I wanted to avoid arbitrary restrictions, so that allows two important things: super guards and glitches. A super guard isn't a move or an attack, so we can use it as much as we want, and glitches are fun additions which, spoilers, will be crucial in this run. The single restriction I've placed on this run to start with is no danger or peril strats. More on that later, trust me. Finally, the goal of this run is all crystal stars. This is one of the main speedrun routes, and the most interesting for this challenge, so we need to go through every chapter. That's it for the rules. I was a bit uncertain about this rule set at first, but as time went on, this got more interesting than I could have ever imagined. Just because I'm sure people will ask, I know this challenge has been done before, but I intentionally didn't watch them until afterwards. I wanted this to be my challenge. I wanted to figure out all of its roadblocks myself in my own way. So if I do anything differently, that's fine. And now we begin with... The run begins, like they all do, with a fight against Lord Crump. But that's where the similarities end. At this point in the run, all we have is jump and hammer, two incredibly important moves. So thankfully, that was a lie. Those aren't our only options. It's kind of uncharacteristic of Mario RPG to give us access to the tactics menu in a tutorial, so we can just waste our turns and super defend him to death. This is a lucky start, because Crump only attacks directly. This won't last long. The next battle, apart from this one, is the Goomba Trio. These guys also only attack directly, but I've got a better solution for this one. This probably looks familiar to anyone who watched my last TTYD video, but don't worry, Fright Mask is dead now, never to be used again. Not that it'd be useful later anyway. This is where the easy battles end though. After getting plane mode, between us and Petal Meadows is the Blooper. This guy has 10 HP, not including his tentacles, and once he's down, he will never attack directly. This is where the challenge gets tricky, and this is going to be pretty common. Even with access to Power Smash and the lovely House of Badges, we'd have to spend some of our most useful moves before we even start Chapter 1. I knew the prologue was going to be an issue with so few options, so this is where the first glitch of the run comes in. Another recurring feature on this channel, Prologue Skip. Or, Prologue Skip usually only skips part of the prologue, and now we're skipping even less of it so we can get Power Smash, so basically it's just Blooper Skip at this point. Now we're in Chapter 1, and the first destination is Schwank Fortress. This means passing two rooms with mini-boss fights against Clefts and Bristles. The intended solution is to use POW blocks, because they have too much defense for our early game moveset. But if we can only use the POW block once... So we need to get creative. Thankfully, our only partner at this point in the game is exactly who we need. If we use Goombella's Tattle ability, there's a window of a couple of frames where we can move without activating any loading zones. By doing this repeatedly, we can get out of bounds. This is called Goombella buffering. By carefully navigating around the seam of the room, we can wrap around to the other loading zone and skip the fights entirely. Now, if you're feeling like we're just skipping or super guarding every fight, I was worried about that too. But believe me when I say, we need to save every move we can for later. With that in mind, we can superguard the Fuzzies and the Golden Fuzzy in Schwank Fortress, get the Pickle Stones, and head to Hooktail Castle. The first room just has some Koopa Troopas, and you'd have to be a complete idiot to get hit by them. But afterwards is a fight against Redbones. who I might have called Pink in the last video, but I'll give him a pass because apparently in some languages he's called Bloody Bones or Blood Red Bones, which is metal AF. We don't get a pass, however, because neither he nor his dull brethren use any direct attacks, and on top of that, if we're slow, they'll build reinforcements. Trying to conserve my precious moves, I'd rather not use Power Shell so early. I would rather use items, and I do have a Pow Block and Fire Flower, but I can do one better. The Red Bones has 5 HP, and guess what item happens to deal exactly 5 damage? Well, a few actually, but in particular, Earthquake. It's fairly niche, only affecting grounded enemies, and is available now at a shop near you, assuming you're willing to pay Charlatan's exorbitant fee for it. But at the cost of only one item, we defeated the Red Bones, and the only other enemies in the castle are so pitiful you'd have to be a complete idiot. So anyway, at the top of the castle is a dragon. Yeah, crazy stuff. But this dragon is a one-time champion of not using any direct moves, so once again, no super guarding our way out of this one. And this is kind of the chapter boss. Defeating her directly rewards us with the Diamond Star, so no skipping her either. 1 base defense, 20 HP, and after that's depleted she refills 10 HP. It's time we use some moves in this run. A jump deals 2 damage, 1 per bounce. Our upgraded Koops deals 3 damage with a Shell Toss. Then we can use our first badge move, Power Jump, because honestly it's kinda underwhelming. At this early point, we might as well use one of the more, unreliable items, the Mystery. If it lands with Thunder Rage, that's 5 damage, and Koop's Power Shell is 3 more damage. Quick math says that comes to approximately not enough. We need a bit more. My first addition was the Jumpman badge, also from Charlatan, which buffs our jump damage by 1. This gets us so close at 1 HP, but I forgot that the first attack will deal 1 less damage because you need to use an attack to nullify her defense. It's time to think of something more. Or at least that's what I would say if I didn't happen to have the background and a stage light fall on Hooktail in one turn. Normally I'd be skeptical of allowing this, but one niche benefit of Power Jump is its increased rate of dropping stage props. Good job, Power Jump, you've upgraded to the status of it does its best. So with good odds on the mystery and the stage props, that only gets us to phase 2. But I wasn't concerned at all, this is the reason I upgraded Goombella. It seems a bit risky to use such a strong move so soon, but we still have so few options, and it only takes one really good multi-bonk to finish her entire second phase. That gets us our first Crystal Star. Peach is here, Bowser is here, and we begin Chapter 2. We start in the Boggly Woods, with these enemies that are so bad you'd have to be a complete idiot. After doing all the obligatory dialogue stuff, the first battle is against the 3 Shadows. To start with, they use direct attacks, so we can deal some super guard damage. But after taking enough damage, they get desperate and start using more moves, all of which are a problem and are indirect. Although it's possible they can still use their direct attacks, given the moves they have access to in their second phase, we can't really rely on that. So my strategy was to super guard their health down to 6 each, then use our first special move, our only use of Earth Tremor, to deal 6 damage and finish them off. That unlocks Flurry, who is far less useful here than she was in the last challenge. But she does get us into the Great Tree, where we're greeted by 2 X-Nauts. These guys only attack directly, so they're no problem. They sometimes drink a potion to buff themselves, but the super guard timing is so comically easy it doesn't matter. The X-Nauts are actually the least of our concerns, because the tree's native fauna is far worse. The Piders in particular only attack indirectly. It would suck if they appeared in an inconvenient location in a few minutes. Fortunately, the only mandatory fights for a while are X-Nauts. We easily take care of the fight against 10 Jabbies, and then get the rest of the Punies. But oh, would you look at this, Piders in an inconvenient location. We need to take all 101 Punies to the end of this zigzag bridge, but of course they're afraid of Piders, and every time they drop, the Punies nearby will be launched. They are too slow to even get past the first Pider, let alone the path between 2 of them, but fighting these would require so many moves. But that's just how challenges go. Right? Of course not. I'm not letting these Piders get valuable moves out of me. Most Punies get scared off, but often 1 or 2 stay up. If I'm persistent, I can manage to bring a few Punies to the end of the path, so I just drop down, leaving them there, and repeat. And repeat. As long as they stay over there, I can just... Okay, fine. Once I get the punies across, I'll leave them at the nearest altar, which is... Don't worry, this is fine. I don't need all of them for this fight. Just maybe 63 will do? With some good luck, maybe? Okay, 86. Surely that's enough. Yeah, exactly. That's the number I meant to say. Now the punies can be safely left in the care of this pale piranha. Mercifully, the punies never need to cross this bridge again, so we can continue the chapter and reach the bottom of the tree. The final challenge of this chapter is Magnus von Grapple, with 30 HP and 1 defense, which is actually identical to Hooktail if you include both phases. Immediately, this looks promising, because he starts out with a direct attack. We can deal some damage right away with super guards. But of course, it's not going to be that easy. After taking 10 HP of damage, Crump is hard programmed to launch his tissue boxes of fists. While either of his fists are alive, Crump will not use his stomp attack. He'll just cause a tremor, which I guess still involves stomping, but this means we need to spend at least one move here. And I still feel most comfortable using items because those can't be buffed later. Of course, none of them can finish off his remaining 20 HP, but if I can make him use his direct attacks again, we could get somewhere. And earlier, we picked up something perfect. An Ice Storm kills both fists and tacks a bit of damage on Magnus. So now, I guess just pray he chooses to use his stomp attack rather than firing his fists again. With only an Ice Storm used, Magnus von Grapple is dead, granting us the Emerald Star. Peach here, Bowser here, and we're on our way to Chapter 3. This is the chapter I was most concerned about for this challenge. It's about battling. This could easily eat our entire reserve of moves and kill the run on its own. But one step at a time. We sign up, register for the first battle, and to start with, there's nothing to see here. The Goomba Bros aren't a threat in this challenge, or any challenge really, and the condition is to appeal once, which we'd probably do anyway. The Glitz Pits battles all have a randomly chosen condition, like not using hammer or not switching partners. Some of them require us to use something, like a special move, so we need to get good luck on conditions to avoid those. The good times don't last long though, because look who arrived. Or arose, I guess. The most fragile of bones that still refuse to attack directly. Sticking with the theme of using items as long as we can, I took advantage of the fact they only have 1 HP each and killed them all with a single POW block. And things don't get much better with Spike Storm. Lakitu frequently makes more Spinies, and he's the main concern. Ironic that our best option for a Lakitu was Thunderbolt. Rank 14 is the Handed Overs, and for this one we actually have a fascinating strategy.
So I'm gonna pay you
20 coins and a mushroom.
the off.
Finally, rank 13 is the Mind Bogglers, featuring every arachnophobe's favorite, and we're running out of niche throwaway items. So this time I took a brief interlude to upgrade Flurry. With 1 power plus P, a Body Slam can one-shot a Pyder. It feels good to use an actual move on them. Thankfully, the Punk Rocks and Bob-omb Squad can all be defeated with Super Guards, which gets us to the most important match of the run, the Iron Adonis Twins. I went into this run blind. I intentionally didn't plan stuff ahead, but this is the one fight I knew would be an issue. These guys have a notorious gimmick. They are immune to every single possible form of damage, except for Gulp. Even other moves that knock them into each other do nothing. Normally, it'd deal 4 damage each, and they each have 6 HP, so you'd use it twice to finish them off. We need to do 2 more damage to defeat them in one attack. Conveniently, there's now 2 Power Plus P badges available. One from Dazzle and one from the top of this juice shop, which certainly isn't a bar, so now I can do 6 damage. To the first one. Okay, fine, we can upgrade Yoshi. Now we can deal a full 7 damage and 5 to the other. I tried everything. Charge, Power Punch, any form of damage buff, but the damage dealt to the second enemy is only the base attack strength. That can only be increased twice, with Super Rank and Ultra Rank. But Ultra Rank isn't available until much later in the game. The sole challenge of this run is to only use any move once, but the only way to defeat these godforsaken Iron Adolescents is to use it twice. That basically kills the run. So, let's not. This is the first reason I allowed glitches, and we may just be able to salvage this. We need to get the Ultra Stone. For that, we need to give Merlin the up arrow, which requires Bobbery, so we'll start with Bobbery early. Hazard Respawn is a glitch performed by jumping into the water the first frame out of a loading zone. It places us in the center of the room, which in this case is on the big block. That's also how Prologue skip works, but that requires chaining a few frame-perfect jumps to reach the water without setting a respawn point. In Keelhaul Key, we can use Goombella buffering to get out of bounds, navigate the seam, and drop down to this questionable assembly of tortured souls. This lets us initiate the fight against the Embers, which technically use direct attacks despite just being fire, but only for one of their 3 moves, so that's fun. Beating them triggers the fetch quest with Bobbery and moves our story progression to Chapter 5, so we can get the Chocola Cola he wants and add him to the team. Since the blue pipes are available now, we can just go straight to Hooktail Castle, get the up arrow, and take it to... Merlin only starts his quest after Chapter 5. Right. But I've still got this under control. We can also get to Poshley Heights early. If you read the note, that starts an interaction with...
There I am, Gary, there I am!
That places our story progress at the end of Chapter 6, so now we can go back and talk to Merlin. Now we can upgrade Yoshi to Ultra Rank. It's done. Now we can just... go back to the Glitz Pit. Yeah, we need to go back in time now. And of course, there are a few ways to do that. Conveniently, one is in Glitzville. All we need to do is go to Grubba's office, and... What do you mean you're welcome here anytime? And why am I Bub? These guys are stuck in a state where they won't move. Starting to get a bit nervous here. If I can't get back to Chapter 3, I won't be able to do any of this. We'll be back to square one, which, if you remember, wasn't a great square. But that's not the only solution. There's another way we can go back in time. Cage skip. In Chapter 2, part of the story involves this cage, and specifically, falling for it. You're supposed to leave the Punies and get spin jump to break this spin panel and free them. But they didn't account for Goombella buffering. Obviously, or we wouldn't have done it the first several times. If you get out of bounds with your party of 101 Punies, jump behind the wall, and quickly take the pipe, the Punies will go with you. So you can beat the chapter without the cage. So we'll just, quickly do everything again. But now, with Yoshi Ultra Ranked, we can go back to this cage, break the spin panel, and now it thinks we're back in Chapter 2. From here, we can just play through Chapters 2 and 3 again, right? Well, we could, but that would require defeating Magnus and all the enemies in the Glitz Pit Minor League again. Plus, the Major League only gets worse, with Magikoopas, Hammer Bros, oh, and a refight with the Iron Clefts. I know now that you can just die in their rematch, but Nuzlocks also typically have permadeath, so the Glitz Pit still isn't looking promising. But you know how I said the first way to revert our progress was in the Glitz Pit? Well, we might be able to make something work. We have the blimp ticket, so we can just leave the Punies here and go to Glitzville. The first thing you'll notice is the chapter starts, but the music kinda had a sick day. Once we arrive in Glitzville, it looks like Hoggle got another egg. We'll just ignore that. If we walk into the arena, we can actually start the chapter like normal. After talking to Grubba, he takes us on his walk and talk, which is not quite how I remember it. I'm starting to feel like this chapter would just break if we played it normally now. If you just decline to sign, you get the freedom to wander around the office, and now you can perform Bookcase Jump, which is done by jumping onto a bookcase. Marvelous. Then you can walk through the vent, which has no reason to have collision on this side. This, of course, leads to the air duct, and suddenly we're at the end of the chapter. So we just need to break the vent from this side like you always do at the end of this chapter with the super hammer that you were supposed to get from halfway through Chapter 3. This is all fine because we don't need the super hammer. We have an even better hammer just sitting in Ropeport. Ultra Hammer early was possible for years with a Flurry Super Slide, a Japanese only technique. But now we have an even cooler technique called Jump Storage. If you use Coop's ability outside of battle, Mario jumps and kicks his shell. But if that gets interrupted on one of the first frames by something like a cutscene... Well, okay, it doesn't look like anything happened, but look at this. Yeah, impressive, I know. Alright, obviously this limp jump isn't useful, but it means you have jump storage. If you use that limp jump the moment you step up a small ledge, like this one in front of Zest's house, you just moon jump. The question is how to get jump storage. Thankfully, depending on your perspective, jump storage even persists through save files, as long as you don't use the jump. Yeah, let's just get to chapter 2 again for a third time, no problem. With this save file up to Flurry's house, we can initiate jump storage here, and just kill ourselves outside without jumping to get back to the title screen. Back in our main save file, we can finally take off, land on the chest, carefully open it, and get the Ultra Hammer. We don't need any stupid Super Hammer. Now we can do bookcase jump again, break the vent, and now we're at the end of chapter 3. That wasn't so bad, and certainly didn't take like 3 days of trial and error. So let's just recap now. The Iron Adonis twins would normally kill the run. So we left, got Bobbery early, skipped to chapter 6, and got the Ultra Stone. Then we used Cage Skip to get back to chapter 2, and finally used Bookcase Jump to skip to the end of chapter 3, just avoiding the Major League altogether. That brings us to the chapter boss, Macho Grubba. And man am I paying the price for what I did to this game, with over half an hour of super guards. His attacks are pretty easy to time, and he only uses direct attacks. You know, like a wrestler would. But after what feels like an eternity for multiple reasons, we have the gold star? That's really all for a gold star? That means Hawk Hogan is flaunting his gold sticky star to the crowd? You know what? Fair enough. Next is Chapter 4, which is refreshingly uneventful. No amazy daisies or anything. We're definitely going to be noticing a bit of a star point deficit again. We can just blitz through this chapter. And by blitz, I mean spend another hour superguarding Dupless 80 times. But for the second fight, of course I just used damage dodge and regular guarded against Goombella. It's slow, but it's simple enough. We needed a win about now. But I'm not kidding, this is chapter 4, the vibes are incredible, but there is nothing to say in terms of gameplay here. So we can move on swiftly to chapter 5, where, yes, you need to take the boat to properly begin the chapter. As soon as you enter the settlement for the first time, you need to fight more embers. But thankfully that's the last time we need to fight their kind, for a bit, because Bobbery is already saved. We just need to cross this one area with putrid piranhas, and you need to be a complete idiot. In Pirate's Grotto, the only mandatory fights are against the bullet bill launchers. Oh, and a few more embers. In the last TTYD video, I talked about how these launchers in the corridor can be skipped with paper mode around the edge, but not the first ones on the bridge. I figured because the area didn't have walls, you couldn't skip them in the same way. Of course, what did you think would happen? You can even Yoshi jump across. This is stupid. Thankfully, this wouldn't have changed the numbers for the least damage video. It just would have saved an hour of my life. So, apart from some unmentionables, there's no mandatory fights in the grotto, leading up to the boss of the chapter, Cortez. A 3-phase fight, and every phase attacks directly. But the first is immune to the damage. So 20 HP, 1 defense, immune to superguard damage. That sounds familiar. There's some items we still have to use, and even the best attack items won't hold up in the last chapter, so never mind. Let's instead just walk back through the entire cave, and give Zesty her cookbook so she can make a few of the remaining attack items that few people have ever used. Egg Bomb, made with a fire flower and the obscure egg of dubious origin, and the Coconut Bomb. I mean, obviously. But there's another item even more niche. For some reason, if you mix a horsetail and a mushroom to make a Zest dinner, then mix that with a courage shell, you get a courage meal, which sounds like food, but you throw it at an enemy for 4 damage? Sure. That's 7, 6, and 4 damage, 3 short of ending the phase. I never thought a fire flower would be so useful at this point in the game. And the second and third phases can be defeated with exclusively superguarding. Eventually. But this chapter isn't over yet, because we're ambushed by Crump again, and this time he's X-Naut maxing, but in truly Lord Crump fashion, he ends every turn with a tackle. The X-Nauts are getting difficult to dodge, but as long as Crump continues his obsession with the same attack, he'll never be an issue. So now we're done with Chapter 5. Peach and Bowser are still going, and now Chapter 6, to Poshley Heights. We already have a blue pipe straight there, but we need the Ultra Boots to beat the game, which are in Riverside Station. There is never a shortcut there, the only way to ever reach Riverside Station is through the XS Express. And actually, you can hit this switch with jump storage, but then you'd never get the key to Riverside, and the Ultra Boots would be locked forever. So we need to play the chapter as normal. But that's fine, it's the best chapter, for no real reason.
There I am again! Look!
Of course I'm going through all of this stuff off camera, But the sticky yummy threat is dissolved, Slick J's, bridge switch, and we can fight the only enemy of this chapter. The Smorg, 50 HP and 1 defense while its tentacles are out, except for the first phase where the core is invulnerable until the tentacles are defeated. Each tentacle has 5 HP, so this is a perfect opportunity for one of the last attack items. Thunder Rage clears them out, exposing the body. 50 HP is going to take more than just items. It's time to pull from the limited supply of attack moves, starting with Yoshi. His Ground Pound and Mini Egg deal pretty good damage. And Soft Stomp. When was the last time you equipped Soft Stomp? As niche as it is, it gives us another full jump attack. Same with Shrink Stomp, an even more forgettable move. That deals 37 damage, so for the rest of its HP, I'm using some less impressive partner moves. Love Slap just deals so little damage, Shade Fist is honestly okay, and Lip Lock. Honestly, this move might be alright if Flurry's HP actually ever mattered. But together, the combined mediocrity is enough to finish off the Smorg. That's 3 days of excessive work, but we have the Spring Jump now, so we can actually reach the Garnet Star. Only 1 remains, but almost all our attack items are gone. Now we get to go to the moon. After the wonderful fetch quest for General White, of course, and getting the Gold Bob guide. The moon has a bunch of random enemies, and navigating with low gravity is slow, but you'd have to be a complete As soon as you enter the X-Naut base, you're ambushed by 2 elite X-Nauts. They're differentiated by taking 5 times longer, and not a whole lot else. But you know what is more difficult than his previous incarnation? I mean, how are you supposed to know the answer to this one? Yeah, we're just gonna skip through all of the wandering to access the factory room, and get to the interesting part of the chapter, Magnus von Grapple 2.0. This fight is actually quite different from the original. He has a drill dive, which takes no superguard damage, a spinning square, which is indirect, shooting his fists, which is indirect, an audience machine gun, which is of course indirect, and naturally he lost the ability to stomp, the one move we used in the original. So 70 HP and 2 defense. If you've been getting tired of the super guards and items, you can open this tab again. This is the beginning of what we've been hoarding moves for. You'll need them. Starting off with a move I wish I could use more, Head Rattle. Confusion can be such a funny status, but there's like 0 reason to ever confuse enemies instead of just killing them. So it's basically just a hammer. And we can use one of the last attack items that's been rotting in our inventory, HP Drain. It deals 5 damage to all enemies. At this point, Crump launches his fists again, which have 5 HP each, which sounds like it would be a good use for the HP drain, but we have one better, Fiery Jinx. It can deal 6 damage, but importantly, it can also burn targets, which deals an extra 3 damage if the burn can fully elapse. That's almost 2 digits. If we're using the hammer in this battle, might as well use the Super and Ultra Hammer moves, and this is probably the best opportunity for the last 2 attack items on the list. So, okay, don't worry about that. Now, the best attack item in the game. 7 damage to all enemies on screen. Ice Smash is actually a pretty useful hammer attack. Frozen is one of the best status effects, continuing the tradition, and it deals 1 extra damage when they thaw. The Shooting Star is it, the last attack item we have. But that's not the last of Magnus. He still has a fair amount of HP left. I'm not sure about it, it seems like a big move, but since I'm focusing on the hammer anyway, I chose now to use one of Mario's core moves, Hammer. And now he has a mere 3 HP left. There could not be a more perfect opportunity for one of the most obtuse moves in the entire game. These bombs do not pierce defense, but also do not benefit from buffs. With Magnus 2 defense, these bombs do 1 damage each, just enough to finish off the Tissue Box 2.0. This has been our first lesson on why I focus so much on saving moves thus far in the game. This one fight used 5 hammers, 3 items, and 2 partner attacks. And it's only going to get worse from here. After Chapter 7 is, spoiler alert, Chapter 8. This is the final chapter, and is also known for having like 10 bosses, or even more in this run. The first fight of this chapter is the Dark Bones, 20 HP and 2 defense. But actually that's a lie. He comes packed with 4 dry bones, and of course, none of them attack directly. So far, the bones have been a real problem, but there's one thing in our favor I haven't taken advantage of yet. They are quite vulnerable to Gale Force. Now, I say quite vulnerable, but the odds of successfully defeating all 5 in a single use, especially at our current level, is beyond even me. I've spent 4 hours on a single battle before, but I don't know why, I just had no luck with this. There's theoretically a 0.018% chance, but I spent hours on it and it never worked. It still dealt with the Dark Bones quickly though, so I finished everything off with a Bob-Bombast. That gives us access to the courtyard. Might as well get the hardest part over with now, Gloomtail. 80 HP and 2 defense. You saw how many moves we had to use for Magnus 2.0, now we have 10 HP more than that. Thankfully, among the many attacks Gloomtail has is one direct attack. One direct bite attack. If not for being able to superguard this attack, we would not have enough moves to finish the game. I don't even know if we'll have enough moves left to finish the game anyway. But there is no way it would be possible if Gloomtail didn't have this one crucial attack. This one vital action that I had forgotten until just this moment cannot be superguarded. There's many moves in the Japanese version that can't be guarded at all, but in the international releases, most of these were changed, save for a couple. I didn't want to route this challenge out beforehand. I didn't want to know before playing it if it would be possible. But my chances of completing this challenge hinged on being able to get rid of this prehistoric tank without needing any of my remaining moves. This would obviously take more attacks than Magnus 2.0, and after that is 3 Shadows, Grotus, Bowser, the Shadow Queen, and a Dullbones. There's no way to rearrange the moves we used previously either. The fights we used them in were unavoidable, and there's not much to be saved. Not nearly enough. I said I'd get to this later, and it's later. Power Rush and Mega Rush, or what's considered Danger Strats or Peril Strats, were the only restrictions I made on this run for strategies. It's just so powerful. But there's nothing wrong with using just one of each. It's in the spirit of the run that involves only using things once. It's not really Peril Strats, it's just using one Mega Rush. So if you disagreed with my decision to arbitrarily ban these badges, here you go. In hindsight, this just makes the most sense. As open as possible, no arbitrary rules. This challenge is simply all Crystal Stars Nuzlocke. I'm glad we tried without the badges first, but this just seems right. If we're allowing these badges, we have some things to do. So, yeah, redoing everything. Again. Love that for me. Thankfully, there's only 3 battles that are done differently. Hooktail, Smorg, and Magnus 2.0. We need to save as many moves as we can with these badges available. In Chapter 1, the House of Badges doesn't carry Power Rush yet, but Charlatan has Mega Rush, and Mega Rush P is in Petalburg of all places. With that, our initial jump deals 5 and 6 damage. That's more than half of our health in one move, and Shell Toss deals 8. That's 19 damage. That's tantalizingly close. I swear I didn't manipulate this. Okay, so that's the only time we can use our hidden empty bucket attack in the run, but that gets us to phase 2. This time we don't need multi-bonk, because a single head bonk deals more than enough damage. Smorg is where we start to save a lot. I decided to focus on the hammer, after, again, using the Thunder Rage on the tentacles. Head Rattle, Super Hammer, and Ultra Hammer will do it. The Smorg grows a tentacle again before finishing it off, but that only gives it 1 defense, not enough to save it. Finally, Magnus Von Grapple 2.0, 2.0. This time not using the majority of our move supply. Hopefully. I continued using the hammer and partners in this fight, but I already used the Super and Ultra Hammer moves, so besides the regular hammer and Ice Smash, I also equipped Fire Drive. That already does 46 damage, so in between those, I used a couple of buffed partner moves. The same as last time, I used Fiery Jinx, and this time I added Love Slap. As long as you get 1 single extra damage from either burn or freeze during this fight, that'll make 70, getting us to the final chapter with a lot of our moves back on the table. With more damage and more moves, we might just be able to pull this off, starting with Gloomtail, because Dark Bones was the same. In the new route back here, I rectified a huge mistake I made last time. Yoshi is so strong, I wasted his immense potential on the Smorg. With the buffs, he's the answer we needed to Gloomtail. Ground Pound hits 6 times, dealing 1 less damage each, and his final move, Stampede, works exactly the same. Starting with a full 9 damage, each of these moves deals 39 total. Those are some of our strongest options, but this is also one of the strongest enemies. I just used a basic bomb to finish him off, and now we're breaking new ground. The Star Stone, and still plenty of moves left. We're not out of the woods yet, because next we have one of the most absurdly difficult fights in the entire game. As part of Riddle Tower, you need to fight all 4 types of bones, as if the game knew how much of a problem those bones were, but we saved HP Drain and Shooting Star from earlier. Against the dry bones, we can use Gulp, which we didn't actually end up using in Chapter 3. And for the refight against the Dark Bones, another crucial move we saved from last time, Bomb Squad. And Piercing Blow. Together, that's exactly 20 damage, and we're finally done with all of the reanimated bones this run. The next boss, or bosses, are the 3 shadows, all of whom have direct attacks. They just don't like to use them very much. This isn't just a matter of patience. Importantly, Marilyn buffs herself in addition to Beldam buffing her, and she prefers to use lightning, which cannot be guarded in any way. It is beyond any argument to try and have one fight where she uses exclusively physical attacks for 40 turns in a row without killing us off with an unguardable super buffed lightning. So the only way to win this fight is to even the odds a bit, with a few moves. Multi-Bounce gives us a big head start on all of them. A multi-bonk we didn't use against Hooktail in this run finishes off Beldam, so no more slow down and speed up. And the soft stomp we saved against the Smorg finishes off Marilyn. This is the only way we could survive this fight. That just leaves Dupless, who only attacks directly. He loves to swap between cloning Mario and Goombella, which definitely added a solid 10 minutes before it was finally able to clear his remaining HP. That's one of the last fights down. We're nearing the end. This might yet be possible. We have quite a few moves left, and we're powerful, but we still have several fights. Skipping over the last puzzle rooms of the palace where, okay, maybe you don't need to be an idiot in order to get hit by these guys. The next fight is the beginning of the end. Grotus. Only 50 HP, that may be a bit less than Gloomtail, but this guy seems purpose-built to ruin this challenge. He starts the fight with 4 Grotus X's. Seems like a strange lifestyle to surround yourself with your X's, but I'm not one to judge. When he has 4 of them, he's invulnerable, and even when he's vulnerable, he gets 1 defense for each one he has. He also spawns 2 of them at the end of every turn. This could be a serious roadblock, but I wasn't worried about this fight. For anyone who watched my least damage video, you might remember this niche trivia. Most bosses in the Palace of Shadow, outside of the Shadow Queen of course, can be defeated instantly with Showstopper. Sometimes. I've never seen it done while he has his shield, I've only seen it done after killing the X's, so this is a perfect opportunity for the Zest Dynamite that we no longer used against Magnus 2.0. Quotes around can be and instantly, there's a reason most people don't know about this, but this would have been possibly the worst battle in the run otherwise. This vulnerability most people don't know about coming in clutch for 2 challenges now, let's see if it'll actually lead to success in this run. Immediately following Grotus is Bowser and Kammy Koopa. Bowser has a direct attack. This is the last time we'll be able to defeat an enemy with Super Guard. But we need to focus on Kammy first anyway, because she has no direct attacks and can heal Bowser. Starting off with one of the last moves we recovered from earlier, Yoshi's last unused move, Mini Egg. Yoshi's moves scale so well with buffs, dealing 33 damage to Kammy and 9 to Bowser. Now the second last attacking special move, Art Attack, which can deal up to 18 damage if you execute it well. I think I only dealt 17 to Bowser. Even with the collateral damage, he still has 44 HP. That's nearly as much as Grotus started with, and more than any of the 3 shadows. And he has an indirect attack. There's no way I could super guard my way out of this one, so I use Power Smash here. The gift from Frankly at the beginning of the game coming in at the end to fight Bowser. How poetic. After the Power Smash, I guess I gave him a concussion, and he kept repeating the same attack. He was determined to make this bite work, so that made finishing off his health easier. A while of tense super guarding later, the penultimate boss is defeated. Oh yeah, spoilers for this 2-decade-old game, Grotus escaped. Now it's time to see if we saved enough moves, if this Nuzlocke will be possible, if we can finish the game by defeating the Shadow Queen with only our remaining unused moves. Of course, this is the final boss, so she can't be damaged with Super Guard at all. It's up to the remaining moves to carry us to the end. I opened up the only way I could imagine, Supernova. 15 HP down, and our attacking special moves are gone. I focused on the hammer before, saving as many jump attacks as I could for this moment. A spin jump now deals 19 damage, amusingly more than Supernova. Power jump wasn't needed against Hooktail this time, so now it can deal 13 damage against the final boss. I think it's earned one more upgrade to it's objectively alright. Oh wait, it actually dealt 14 damage. Don't worry, I've been keeping track of the recovery items, and I haven't used maple syrup yet. I've been saving the best FP recovery items for this fight. In my attempts, I always found the Shadow Queen would buff her attack and defense at this point, so now we're dealing with 3 defense. And she does have an unsuperguardable move, so we can't afford to stall. Shrink Stomp now only deals 10 damage, this is so close to phase 2. She moves on to her next phase after losing 60 HP, and we've dealt 58. We just need to deal 2 more damage. And guess what we still have left over in this run? It couldn't be more perfect. The mystery didn't even roll a Thunder Rage, it landed a Fire Flower. That's a mere 3 damage, but that's enough. That begins phase 2, and this phase is annoying for this challenge. The only way to progress is to attack her 3 times. She'll just fight infinitely until you do. So I decided on 3 of the least useful moves I had left. Power Shell, Shade Fist, and when was the last time you saw somebody use Tornado Jump? Hey, editor's note here. I know at least one of you is already typing a message by this point, so put your pitchfork down. I remembered that Charlatan isn't available in Rogueport until after you defeat Hooktail. That means you can't get Earthquake for the Red Bones or get Mega Rush for Hooktail. So, slight routing change. For Bowser, I swapped Power Smash for Shell Slam, and for the Shadow Queen, I swapped the Mystery for an Earthquake, and Lip Lock for Power Shell. That let me use the Mystery against the Red Bones, and against Hooktail, I could use the Power Shell and Power Smash to make the difference of not having Mega Rush yet. Using a Mystery against the Shadow Queen was funnier, but what can you do? They may not be our strongest moves, but they count. And that starts the cutscene where the Crystal Stars activate and you hear everybody talking like a high school cafeteria. This breaks the Shadow Queen's defense, which, yeah, I'd probably crumble to that too. And now we get the final phase, after being fully restored. I forgot about that little detail. We're using Power Rush and Mega Rush. Peach healing us here actually throws a wrench in our strategy that severely nerfs us. This is finally the time for our single most powerful move. You probably knew this would be here. Power Bounce scales with buffs like nothing else. A solid +4 attack from Power Lift, the last special move of the run, +2 from Charge, which yes, I can only use once in this run, and +2 from my last item, Power Punch. At this point, she used that attack that can't be super guarded. This is the only move in the game that can only be regular guarded. But guess how much damage it deals if you happen to successfully guard all 3 hits? I couldn't have asked for a more perfect move. Now it's time. I managed to get 8 jumps. Starting from 15 damage, that's 92 HP down. And we still have a few moves left, including one of our most useful, Rally Wink, to get the most out of these attack buffs. Sleepy Stomp deals another 26 damage, but doesn't put her to sleep. I guess she's not tired. Unfortunately though, that did something else. This game's attempts to help me are only harming me now. The scripted Shine Sprite bingo once again refilled my HP. But we still have the Power Punch and Power Lift buffs, and we still have one of our last strong moves, Spring Jump. Somehow, even without the Power Rush or Mega Rush buffs, Spring Jump dealt 16 damage each, 32 in total. Plus 26 from Sleepy Stomp and 92 from Power Bounce, that's exactly 150. That is the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Nuzlocke. Single-use attacks successfully completed in, I don't know how long this was, it's a Nuzlocke, it took days. I maintained a list of all moves in the game, the moves I used, and what moves I had remaining, and in the end, there were only 4 questionable moves left. In hindsight, the Grotus X's attack and can be super guarded, so if I could have destroyed all 4 at the same time, I could have used Yoshi's moves against him instead. That would have allowed me to use Showstopper on Gloomtail, and I could have saved Bomb and the Zest Dynamite. Also, if I could have gotten Gale Force to work, I could have saved the Bob-Bombast. Would that have been the best possible route? Probably not, but it isn't far off. I wasn't sure how this would go, but this ended up being a really close run. Without super guards, there's no chance this would have been possible without giving ourselves something else in its place, like stacking Mega Rush. Yeah, this may not have been the most scientific challenge, but it was really fun routing in all of these glitches and exploits to make the run possible. This is certainly going to be my longest video so far. It took a while to put together, so if you made it this far, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it'd really help if you did those YouTube things I shan't mention by name, and I'll see you in the next one.